Both the Gigabyte A16 Pro and the Zephyrus G16 have an RTX 5070 Ti, which is basically the sweet spot for gaming laptops. But the Gigabyte is considerably cheaper. So should you spend more money and get the Zephyrus, or save a buck and just go with the Gigabyte? Well, let's find out. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. From the outside, both of these laptops look very sleek and professional. The Zephyrus has a more MacBook-like look, since it has an all-aluminum body, but the Gigabyte isn't far behind. It doesn't have any crazy RGB on the outside. That all-aluminum build does make the Zephyrus more sturdy in general though. It flexes a lot less than the Gigabyte, since that only has a metal lid, with the rest being plastic. The Zephyrus is also considerably thinner, which looks sleeker, and it's also a lot more lightweight, so using it with one hand is definitely more comfortable. But they both have very similar specifications, with only their CPUs being different. With them both having an RTX 5070 Ti, they're quite a bit faster than a 5070 laptop. But the Zephyrus has a slight edge here, with it having a higher TGP for that GPU, which might make a difference. The Zephyrus also has more GPU options, with it going up to a 5090 and down to a 5060. But that CPU is probably going to be the biggest differentiator here, since the Ultra 9 285H is quite a bit more beefy. For their port selections, they're both great. The A16 Pro swapped out one USB-C port for a USB-A one though, which you might prefer or not. And the Zephyrus has a full-size SD card slot, while the Gigabyte has an Ethernet port. Which one would you rather have? Their chargers are actually the same wattage, at 240 watts, but the Gigabyte one is quite a bit smaller, which is pretty impressive. They can both charge through USB-C as well though, so you could always have a smaller package on the go. Now onto their keyboards. They both do have RGB backlights, but neither one has per key RGB, only single zone. The Zephyrus has a slight advantage, with it having these 4 macro keys at the top, while the Gigabyte has none. But here's how their keyboards feel and sound. The Zephyrus is more clicky and feels a bit more sturdy while typing, while the Gigabyte is a lot quieter with slightly shorter key travel. I do prefer the Zephyrus since it has a nicer key coating. It's a bit matte, while the Gigabyte feels a bit cheaper with this glossy plastic, which will probably fade quicker. Moving down, we have their trackpads. The one on the Zephyrus is obviously a little bigger, which is nice, and while the Gigabyte has a plastic one, the Zephyrus's is made of glass. So it feels more sturdy and premium. The click on the Zephyrus is also a little more satisfying. But the Gigabyte definitely isn't bad. They're both pretty great. But a major difference lies in their screens. The Gigabyte has a pretty good IPS panel, but it can't compete with the smoother, higher quality OLED on the Zephyrus. OLED is pretty much better than LCD in every way. It has more vibrant, punchy colors, infinitely higher contrast, and most of all, perfect inky blacks. The Gigabyte's display definitely isn't bad, but when you put it next to an OLED, it's just no competition. In games, the Zephyrus is smoother as well, not just because of its higher refresh rate, but also because OLED just has near instant pixel response times. And it also gets considerably brighter, especially with HDR content. Their coating is different as well, with the Zephyrus being glossy, while the Gigabyte is matte. But the Zephyrus has the best anti-reflective coating in the industry, so in my opinion, it actually handles reflections better than that cheaper matte coating on the Gigabyte. What do you think? Both of their hinges are a bit wobbly, but that's not an issue during actual use. But the Gigabyte opens up to a full 180 degrees, while the Zephyrus does not. Now when it comes to speakers, that's usually where manufacturers cheap out on to save a buck. So how do they compare? Well, the Zephyrus sounds a lot better. But the Gigabyte really doesn't sound bad. It actually has better audio than 90% of laptops. But it's definitely a bit lacking in bass. The Zephyrus gets louder, has more clarity, and it basically has the best bass out of any Windows laptop, actually rivaling MacBooks. But you're not going to be disappointed by either one of these. They both have pretty good webcams. The Zephyrus chooses to be a bit darker and sharper though. But they both have really good microphones for some reason. I can't hear which one is better here. What do you think? But the deciding factor here is gonna be their performance. They both have an RTX 5070 Ti, but the Gigabyte has slightly lower wattages and a slower CPU. So is that gonna make a difference? Well, in Cinebench R23, the Gigabyte is definitely slower. The Core 7 240H is a budget chip, and that's how it performs compared to the competition as well. But in 3D Mark TimeSpy, regardless of wattage, it still has a 5070 Ti, so they're really not that far off from each other. But that's just benchmarks. We need to see how these two compare in some actual real-world use. So let's play some games.
No, you... Paco, you are cheating. The last one is...
I'll hack you to pieces. Ha! You'll never take me down.
What did you do, man? No!
Yeah, these results are a bit all over the place. The G16 and the A16 Pro are definitely trading blows here. It's pretty much a tie. Although the Gigabyte was a lot faster in Red Dead Redemption and the Zephyrus in Rust. The fact that the cheapest RTX 5070 Ti laptop performs this well is pretty damn impressive. The Zephyrus does get access to like 15 watts more, but I guess in real world performance, that doesn't make a huge difference in this case. It does have a weaker processor, so it does a little worse in CPU-intensive games, but these two laptops perform just as well. But what about their thermals? Because a good laptop doesn't mean much if it runs like an absolute oven. Well, the Zephyrus has the better cooling solution, with a vapor chamber, while the Gigabyte just has a couple of copper heat pipes. But the Zephyrus' CPU runs considerably hotter, with higher peaks, since it uses a lot more power than the Gigabyte's Core 7. However, its GPU stays a bit cooler than on the Gigabyte, but neither of these are gonna reach their thermal throttle point. But which one runs louder during gaming? Yeah, I think the Gigabyte. Both of these laptops stay absolutely silent during lighter workloads though. But these are basically thin and light laptops, so people are gonna use them on the go as well. So which one of them has the longer battery life? Well, I tested their batteries in two scenarios, under light use and during gaming. In the light use scenario, I played a YouTube video until their batteries died, with their displays at 400 nits of brightness, at 60 Hz, and with their dedicated GPU turned off. And the Zephyrus G16 lasted quite a bit longer, mostly because of the type of CPU that it has. The Ultra 9 285H has low power efficiency cores, which use less power and increase battery life. Well, the Core 7 240H doesn't have any of those, so it uses a lot more power on battery. But still, for this kind of chip without LPE cores, it still lasted pretty long. In the gaming test, I played Battlefield 1 until their batteries died with the same settings as before. And they both didn't last very long. Please just get a gaming handheld if you want to play games on battery. Now, the Gigabyte is thicker than the Zephyrus, so does it have more space for upgradable parts? Unfortunately, not really. They both have soldered RAM, so memory upgrades are gonna be impossible. They do both have two M.2 SSD slots, so storage upgrades are really easy. And they also both have Wi-Fi cards, which could be handy in the future. With the way current memory prices are though, I don't think upgradable RAM is that much of an issue right now. But now we get to the part where the Gigabyte excels at: pricing. It is the cheapest gaming laptop you can currently buy with an RTX 5070 Ti, which is a huge advantage. While the Zephyrus G16 with a 5070 Ti is quite a big chunk of change more expensive. It does have lower spec models that are cheaper, but of course those are also slower. And if we compare the price of both of their RTX 5080 variants, the Gigabyte looks quite a bit more attractive for your wallet. Which brings us to our conclusion. Which one of these is more worth it? The Zephyrus G16 or the Gigabyte A16 Pro? Well, for 99% of people, I'd say the Gigabyte. Yes, the Zephyrus has the better build quality. It has way better speakers, a gorgeous OLED display, a faster CPU, and in general, it's just a more premium device. But the Gigabyte A16 Pro is just as fast in games. And for most people, performance is all that matters, and this thing performs really well. So if you want an overall better laptop experience, get the Zephyrus with its better display, speakers, and build quality. But if you want to save a buck and you don't really care about any of that, just get the Gigabyte A16 Pro. Both of these are great choices, and you're not going to be disappointed by either one of them. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Soundwife, Thomas, Inky, Mr. Frostydude, Dropzone1, Martijn Snijkers, Flimsy, Aki, Disco Volante, Mr. Nuke, Sebastian, Christian Sands, Real Elf, Eric the Red, Wesley Rhodes, Michael, Ghost Data, Anu Gadar, Abdullah, and Madepiece. If you become a YouTube member, you get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll also be supporting me as a creator to make these videos. And of course, you'll also be part of the Cool Guys Club, so you can use cool emojis like these in the comment section. So join the club if you're interested. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.
Let me in the damn...